time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets, whether it's in Lincoln or in Omaha at the casinos. Make sure you get over to Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. So we're having this conversation about quarterbacks, right? And we do kind of forget about Rodgers in that discussion a little bit because he didn't win more. Mm-hmm. And regular season, he won quite a bit. But in terms of just pure throwers of the football, Jason Cole was right. He's about as good as it's ever been. Just pure throwers of the football. Now, there's all the other junk that goes along with Aaron Rodgers that at some point I have to hold that against him. Like, it wasn't as public until the last handful of years, but he's kind of seemed like a guy that's been difficult for most of his career. I don't know how much that matters, but when you have those good of numbers and that few of wins in terms of postseason success to back it up, like we're doing touchdown to interception ratios in the break here. And Rodgers is off the charts. It's so his is so good, it's stupid. And nobody else is close. I think he might have the best in terms of like a large sample size of all time, because everybody else that I look at is Brady's second that I can find, and he's barely 3-1. Rodgers is 4.34 to 1 touchdowns and interceptions for his career. It's 503 to 116. For comparison, Peyton Manning, who I think is right up there, barely 2-1, 539 to 251. We consider that guy as good as they've ever been, right? Dan Marino, somebody brought up in the chat, not even 2-1. Joe Montana, not even 2-1.
Oh, that was probably me.
Well, QB Ace brought up Marino. He goes,
that's what I responded to, right? When I was like, at first blush, I'd take Rodgers.
Well, I would too. But also, I don't think anybody anymore puts Marino in that category for that reason. If Marino had 2 Super Bowls, we'd talk about him a lot differently. If Marino had 1 Super Bowl, we'd talk about him a lot differently. But he kind of gets lumped into this other category of, really good guys never won it. And that's a whole different type of dude.
Yeah. And I think he falls into some of the category of some of these other guys that didn't play with a lead. I mean, we know Dwight Stevenson, and that's about the only offensive lineman we could name for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
That, at least for me, I mean, I'm a nerd, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing most people can't name the one.
Okay, so let me ask you something.
Yeah.
So I give you Hurts, Prescott, Herbert, Allen.
Throw Lamar in there.
Aaron Rodgers still, Stroud, Stafford, Purdy maybe, Burrow, Allen, Mahomes.
Okay.
Versus, so you got to go Manning, Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, Roethlisberger, Rivers, and Warner?
Yeah, probably. For the early to mid 2000s.
Do I put Favre in there? Probably.
Maybe not in that same time period. He's on the tail end there, so maybe, but yeah, I guess.
So do you give Rodgers to the early 2000s or?
So I go mostly
where
mostly 2010s.
Okay.
Because
so
he doesn't start.
So he goes with the second group.
Because he doesn't start till 08.
Okay, so he goes with the second group.
Yeah, I think so.
So Jason said something that was interesting. He said, this crop isn't as deep as that group.
I disagree.
It's not that cut and dry.
I would disagree. I think there's...
Because you know what I'm going off of? I think of the early 2000s, I get it biased, but look at his numbers. See, I think Ben belongs in like the top 6 or 7.
Probably, yeah.
He's never talked about.
Yeah.
So how do we really feel about
that group?
Yeah.
And Rivers.
How do we really feel?
Rivers is a good example because that's kind of the realm that Dan Marino has to live in.
And who does Eli go with?
I think early group. He got drafted in what?
He just said it kind of so smooth, like, well, you don't
01?
have to deal with the depth. And I was like, I don't know who I would really take.
02? What? I can't remember what year Eli got. But no, I think I would take the later group.
It's close.
So part of it is I like Burrow a lot.
Can I just say this one last time?
Yeah.
It's almost upsetting to me how dismissive we are of what he does.
Yeah, especially this year.
Even my man Jason was like,
Burrow's
the dude's back touched grass 6, 7, 8 times a game. I don't care if he's throwing to
Jamar Chase. T. Higgins.
Well, and sometimes T. Higgins. We just lump T. Higgins in like he plays all the time. But
my first blush, and I mean, I don't want to do recency bias here, but
Burrow got Boyd paid. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I tend to, because I think Josh Allen's really good.
I think Burrow's incredible.
I mean, Jalen Hurts is a guy I don't even like that much. Just won a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, you said he could win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to eat that one because I can't even. I'm thinking all last night. Just full disclosure, I'm thinking all last night about like ways I can pivot and be like, oh, that's a defensive Super Bowl win.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna hold your feet to the fire.
You heard me all year. I was like, oh, I'm gonna pivot and say it's a Saquon Barkley thing. Yeah. Well, Barkley gets eaten yesterday, so I can't make a Saquon Barkley thing. I could make it about the defense, but Jalen Hurts, like.
There's only so much time in the show. I wasn't going to spend.
I missed on Jalen Hurts.
Whether Hurts could win a Super Bowl.
I just missed on it, and that's fine. Like, I just missed. But
he's been to 2 now.
He's been to 2. He's won the 1. Part of the reason I said no is because he's just the 3rd quarterback ever to lose their first Super Bowl appearance and then win one.
Leave it to my diehards Dolphins fan. Bless your heart. He should probably be a Hall of Famer, too.
Who?
No, he's not a Hall of Famer. He should. Yeah, he's.
Who?
Richmond Webb. Great player.
Like,
but CK is a diehard Dolphins guy.
Speaking of Dolphins, 3 quarterbacks ever to lose their first Super Bowl appearance and then win one later. Bob Greasy, John Elway, and now Jalen Hurts. That's it. That's the whole list. If you lose the first one, you pretty much don't win one.
Yeah.
And so that was part of my thinking with Jalen Hurts. But like, I don't have an answer. Like, I can't. He left me no pivot room, which I don't love, to pivot out and be like, it was a defense. And listen, I could probably pin it on the defense, but he played really well. And he did all the things that I wasn't sure if he was capable of doing. Because Kansas City kind of was like, hey, you're going to have to throw it to beat us. And he did. And then he ran it too. But they made him make some throws, and he made the throws.
I'm just trying to figure out how careful we have to be. Because listening to Jason talk about Rodgers, I'm like, shoot, I kind of feel like, and I thought this when I text, I don't know who else was on that text, maybe just you, but I was like, wow, are they really going to dangle Rodgers in front of the Steelers like this?
Oh, I think that was the whole group, yeah.
And I'm like, does Rodgers need to win? That's immediately what I thought. He can't just go somewhere and have a poopy season, because he still threw for 28 tutties this year.
Yeah, and he got roasted,
killed.
Yeah, because we thought he was terrible, and mostly it's because he was a terrible teammate. But
does he need to have a good season to not be Jim Kelly?
You know what his numbers were this year?
Does he need a good season to not be Jim Kelly?
He needs a good team season. Because he had a good individual season.
Because we glossed over Jim Kelly like he was a bum. Yeah. Jim Kelly was good.
He was. Aaron Rodgers had 3,900 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 picks.
It's pretty good.
That's a good year.
It's really good.
You know whose numbers those are better than? Patrick Mahomes is this year. You know who won 5 games this year? Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
That's the difference. If he puts up those numbers again on a 5-12 team, we're going to crush him again. We will crush him again.
And you're never going to get another Jim Kelly. Quarterback that's going to lose 4 for one team, you're not going to get that anymore, because they're either going to get traded. There's something. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen again.
That's probably right.
I mean, you're probably not going to have a guy lose 4 again.
We don't even talk about Jim Kelly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Patrick Mahomes could lose 4.
No, I mean, not without winning one. I mean, obviously,
but he's going to get there a bunch more times, and you got to think he's going to lose 1 or 2 more.
That I don't know.
Yeah, we can't guarantee that.
I don't know. It's proven to be pretty hard to do.
So Jim Kelly's really good, but if we're going to hold.
That's a good point. So the difference between QBA saying that Brady lost 3 is he was winning in between them.
Yeah.
They weren't consecutive.
And there were wins, right?
Yeah.
Kelly's go 0 for 4. That's a tough look. Real quick on some of the Super Bowl props. You won The pick of the game, you had Philly, I had KC. Mahomes and Hurts both went over on their touchdown passes, 1.5. I crushed the rushing attempts,
Attaboy.
8.5. He ended up with 11. B. Edwards crushed the rushing yards. It was 42.5, goes for 72. We had some good. We also got the over, which I'm sure B. Edwards was nervous about with about 7 minutes left at 40-6, and he's like, somebody kick a field goal. We had a pretty good day.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good day on the props.
And take Carolina on the road against Clemson.
They're getting 5.5.
Correct.
That's bet on it. Brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook.